60 Plus Racing Adventures is the iRacing league for seasoned and experienced drivers that goes to show that in sim racing, age is no boundary to fair, competitive racing and great competition. You join us on RaceSpot for coverage of Season 12, Week 6, which comes to you from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. Two races ahead of us today, and in the Pro Mazda open wheel race car. It's going to be fantastic and we're looking forward to it. I'm David Haynes, and producing and alongside me is going to be Paul Smith. Paul, we've got the championship standings up here. Stefan Roostjen, a previous champion in this league with 170 points. Jos van der Ven has also tasted victory in this league, 147 points. And Russ Addy in 120 points in third there to keep them honest.
Yeah, it's once again great series to work on and to bring coverage to everybody here. And again, it's quite a close championship when you consider how when we covered the first round of the championship, Stefan Roostjen seemed to have the pace over everyone. But Jos van der Ven, we know that he's a quick driver as well, and good to see Russ Addy there in third place, in with a shout. But we're at the halfway point of the championship, and these drivers, they're really getting into the season 12.
Yeah, indeed they are, and we see that with the points difference the way it is there, it is all to play for. Our drivers of Stefan Roostjen and Jos van der Ven, who are both here for today's race, and it's a very, very strong looking grid indeed of approaching 40 cars. So this league in 60 Plus Racing Adventures continues to go strength to strength. A little bit of practice, I think, underway right now.
We're in qualifying at the moment. Yeah,
up the top qualifying indeed. That's fantastic because I am looking forward to this race, and I'm glad to hear it is coming to us sooner than I thought. Van der Ven, as you see there at the top, the 117.2, just 2.5 miles around this circuit, kind of like Road Atlanta, for example. So the laps come up and they come up quickly, but they're not short of action. Plenty of challenging corners around this circuit. We've got the long run from the Keyhole and down towards China Beach, where I think we'll see a lot of overtaking because the slipstream is very strong in these cars. But then around the back section of the circuit, very challenging and rewards some confident drivers and some drivers with some skill, because there is a lot of undulating up and down hill, blind apex corners. Plenty of things to provide a challenge to our drivers, and underneath the billboard there is where I stood for IndyCar this year.
Alright, showing off that you've been out to the States there, but yeah, no, it's a nice little venue, tricky to overtake at this particular venue, so these drivers, they'll have a challenge on, and they won't have things easy. So, but this is what we want. We want a challenge for these drivers. Don't want to make it too easy, do we? So this will be great. This is always fun to watch these guys and watch this car. This Pro Mazda, as you mentioned, really holds the draft well, and really it's able to give you that close racing that we've grown to expect from the series.
Yes, especially in this league where it's fixed setup, so everyone running the league-provided setups, which means that everyone has the same level of downforce, the same front wing angles, the same rear wing angles, and that certainly helps some of the overtaking as well, because you're not going to get stuck behind someone who's got a lower wing angle, less downforce, slow around all of the course, but a bullet in a straight line. It also promotes a little bit of the slipstream. We look at Franz Brink. He comes into China Beach turn there, and over the top of the hill. This is another one of those difficult corners where the track sort of drops away from you as you're turning. Promotes a real challenge, and then there's a couple of blind apexes all the way around the rest of the lap here to present a challenge to Franz Brink and indeed all of our drivers.
I think Franz is just getting a little bit of a feel for the car and get a little bit of a run out there, because he's not going as fast as he can do in this Pro Mazda around this track. So he's just taking it easy, getting a feel for the car, and just getting a last run in. Of course, won't get enough of qualifying lap in because there's only 23 seconds remaining in qualifying here, and he comes across the line there. So does get a lap time in. It's 36th, but end of the day, at least he's got a time on the board.
Yeah, indeed. So more than 10 seconds off our pole sitting pace, but he did get out there, did have a look at the circuit, and that is going to help him out. So we'll look at that starting grid for race 1 here in 60 Plus Racing Adventures. We saw that Jos van der Ven stands proud at the top of qualifying alongside Paul Stump. Rolling start in this series, so those two will be side by side. The row behind them is going to be Bill Lawrence and Stefan Rostjen, points leader. Behind that, John Morgan and Andrew Fiedler. Muller and Kenneth Dummer make up the row behind that.
Yeah, Donald Poole then 9th place with Randy Shomek, rounded out that row 5. Row 6 is Kenneth Baldwin with Leif Hellberg. Row 7 is Joel Martin and Jay Felton, hitting the 1 second mark there behind your pole sitter. Bob Kern and Jared Florison, 15th and 16th with Russ Addy and David Riley, 17th and 18th.
Mark Robertson has 19th place, Bruce Granham 20th, and that's about where we'd expect to see the field end in previous seasons, but it carries on with Richard Coulomb in 21st, a driver that might be able to move up through the order. Jack Turner in 22nd, Bruce Poole I can say the same about in 23rd position. This is going to be quite an exciting race, I do think. Charles Gilly in 24th. Let's just let the rest of your starting order go by on the screen, because as we've seen, 36 qualifying times. It's 36 cars hopefully going to take the start of this race. It's going to be fantastic to watch.
Certainly is. Of course, these drivers, 2 races in this event, so we're going to be seeing them twice here today, and the best result from the 2 races that these drivers score, that will go towards their championship. But there's your pole sitter then, Jos van der Ven. He's getting to pull away behind the Porsche safety car. We're almost ready for the start here.
Indeed, the rolling start imminent, our field away, and no pit stop going to be required in this race unless you sustain some damage. So an all-out sprint here. Jos van der Ven goes around the outside of the carousel, and the green flag waves quite early. They're away. Van der Ven has a great jump. It's too wide through the pack behind. They're all going to need to be safe. Bill Lawrence, great jump from him to the inside for turn 1 from 3rd place. He comes from a row back to take a spot, but there's been some contact through turn 1. Couple cars riding up over the curb that separates the racetrack from the pit exit. And John Morgan, that car is not looking pretty. He's dropping down the field.
Yeah, he's taken a tour back to the pits, so he's had major damage there for him. A little instant at turn number 1, which has caused him to retire. We're still going though, and the leader already, Van der Ven, 1.4 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. It's Lawrence ahead of Stump in 2nd and 3rd place, but Stump is under pressure from Stefan Rostjen, looking maybe to go to the inside this right-hander. No, we've got cars running wide, everybody's still all bunched together. You look further down, great action throughout the field. As you said, big grid here for us in this first of the 2 races, but right now I would say that the closest battle is Kenneth Dummer and Randy Shomek.
Yeah, indeed. A couple of drivers caught napping on the race start, and that separated the pack out just a tiny bit. Kenneth Dummer leads a little bit of a train from 6th, and Richard Coulomb, I was hoping he might be able to move up through the order, but his chances of that have been rather dashed. Here's the replay. He's gone around the outside there, and he wasn't fully expecting that car to the inside of him. There must be secondary contact here as he tries to get it pointed the right way, but that car is looking rather poorly, and unfortunately for Coulomb, that might as well be a retirement at this point in this 20-lap race. Very early, very unfortunate for him.
It is very unfortunate for him, and It's a shame to see that happen, but right now these drivers, they're out there, they're putting the pressure on, they're trying to get the early moves made, because once this race all sort of calms down, as we've got a spinner around, that's Jay Felton, and that's into China Beach. So once these drivers get all settled down, overtaking will prove to be difficult here.
Certainly more challenging than at the start when everybody was too wide. So looking at this battle that's over 6th place or so still, and through that corner at the end with a carousel that's got a bit of a bump in the middle of it, and that can be difficult, especially these open wheel cars, pretty light, relatively twitchy. We've seen it catch a couple of drivers out. Looking for an overtake out of turn 1 down towards the keyhole. Difficult spot to get a pass done, not impossible, but really what you're looking for is to set up a run out of turn 3. But no one's told Russ Addy, now 3rd place in the championship standings, man, in the 1-1-1. He gets a good move done there, gets the power down confidently on the exit, and that's a spot for him up into 10th. He's going to have a little bit of a gap to try and close down to Kenneth Baldwin if he needs to continue making progress up the field, but that's certainly a decisive way to do it.
It certainly is, and well, he's got drivers behind that are now starting to put the pressure on Leif Hellberg there in the bottom half of the top 10, in fact just outside the top 10 there. So these drivers putting the pressure on here early on, and Leif Hellberg is just feeling it a little bit, but staying ahead for the time being as they go there, and then running wide there, Joel Martin, that's going to allow Bob Kern to close up then, so running onto the grass, that's not ideal, and moving ahead of Paul Stump up front is Stefan Rosejen. So what's happened to Stump?
I saw that on the timing screen as well. This is over 3rd position. Stump has Rosejen behind him in this shot. They come down in towards the carousel. And Stump indeed pushing just a little bit wide. Rosejen up into 3rd place. Just going to help in his pursuit of Jos van der Ven out in the lead. He's going to come under more pressure though, Paul Stump, because Andrew Fiddler has a good run down the back straight here. Pulls out of the slipstream just a little bit, so he won't be able to attack on the brakes this time.
Don't forget, live timing and scoring is available, RaceSpot.tv/timing, if you want to keep up to date with everything going on in this race. But Fiddler just got to be a little bit patient now at this point. It's early on in the race, we're only on lap 4 of this event, and up over that crest, it's a really tricky corner, as that you can see how the car just pushed out wide, almost ended up on the grass. So that means that he's just dropped back that little bit from Stump in front. But Rosejen trying to make a breakaway from Stump is 7/10 of a second now in front of Stump. So Rosejen is looking forward and looking to try and take some chunk of time out of those cars in front. By the way, fastest lap, Bill Lawrence up in 2nd place, so he's no slouch around here today.
Yeah, Bill Lawrence has pulled out a massive lap there, pretty much equaling the qualifying lap of Jos van der Ven, if I'm not wrong there. So Lawrence is on fire in his pursuit of the lead, and starting to drop these 3 behind of Rosejen, Stump and Fiddler, and Rosejen's almost starting to drop Stump as well. Andrew Fiddler is maybe a little bit at risk of being left behind. Another battle further back though, Duma and Shoemake, and to the inside goes Randy Shoemake, and he is going to grab that spot, I would think. This section of corners though, right, left, right, there's a possibility to hold it too wide and try and defend your position. Kenneth Duma's not been able to do that. Now he's under pressure from Donald Poole. Try and get his nose towards the inside, but is not able to do it. In this corner that you pointed out is so tricky. It drops away right at the exit. You can't see the track out point. It's difficult in 2 ways like that. It leads down to this section here where Duma again pushes quite wide, but Donald Poole wasn't able to make advantage of it, so he takes a very late apex, early throttle out of the carousel. What kind of stead will that set him for turn 1, turn 2, and then eventually the run down to turn 4?
as Bruce Granheim is in the pits. He's missing a rear wing, so something major has happened to him. We'll try and find out. Well, according to this, he's already lost his rear wing, so something happened a bit more dramatic. We'll try and get a look at this then. He's lost his rear wing there. So what on earth has happened to Bruce Granheim? I'm wondering. Now you see, I'm determined to find out what's happened here. It must be at the start of. Well, he's got a severely damaged car. I can't go back any further than that. So he's been in the wars.
Yeah, he's been driving that Formula Ford low downforce specification vehicle for a while, and I think maybe just now it's caught up to him. So looking here.
I'm telling you what, it'll be good down the straights. It's just unfortunate there's not that many straights around this track.
Indeed, indeed. Poole still looking. Kenneth Duma for 7th position. And just struggling to get the run out of the critical corners where you can get into the slipstream and can launch an attack. Looks to be good through the back half of the circuit. Gets very well to the apex through the carousel there. And just hasn't obviously been able to get the run and the traction out of turn 2.
Coming through that, he's really putting the pressure on. He's keeping in the slipstream, but he's going to have to wait on the exit of turn 3. He wants to try and get a better run out of this corner here. Held a little bit of a tighter line up over the curb, and now he's in the slipstream. This is his opportunity now for Poole, and if you're Duma, you've got to hold that inside line, but he's not. He's opened it up here, and Poole is going to look to the inside, late brakes. Both push a bit wide. They're both giving each other room as I say that. Poole cuts across the nose there, but through he goes then, and Duma down another place.
And you noticed Duma not defending the inside particularly vigorously, but he tried to keep the momentum around the outside there. Did not quite work. And Donald Poole goes up into 7th place. Randy Shoemaker's tried to get away in the foreground there, and indeed he's pulled a bit of a gap. It's now Kenneth Baldwin and Russ Addy lining up to try and get a move done on Duma, and we've pointed out that this is kind of important for Russ Addy. 3rd in the points, but running down in 10th here, while his championship rivals are running in the top 3. So he'd ideally like to continue making moves through this race, continuing gaining more positions, and see what he can do in race 1. And there's quite a few cars lined up in front of him here that you'd think he definitely could take a look at. Oh, doesn't quite get a move out the corner there.
We've had an incident, and it's Urs Muller who's had an incident, and that looks like it's going to be at turn number 1. He jumped up on my timing screen, and I think that's because he ended up almost on the exit of turn 3 on the straight down there. Let's have a look then. Goes out wide onto the grass. He's had a big moment there. Missed the tyre wall, which is crucial. But yeah, almost ended up on missing out turn 3 completely. Or turn 2, should I say.
Yeah, they used some of that section of the track for a rallycross layout, or at least they have. And that's almost looking like what he was trying to impersonate there. Found a couple of jumps in that grass, and that sent him on a trajectory he was definitely not after. So tough for Urs Muller, and he's unfortunately, I think, picked up a bit of damage going across some of those bumps in the outfield hard as well. So shame for him, but he'll definitely be able to continue, and Joel Martin, this is what's happened to him. Bit of a spin, trying to put the power down as the track drops away and takes grip away from you. You're trying to feed in the throttle at the same time. And that's one of those corners that's quite difficult to carry your momentum, and this is quite a sensible rejoin. He knew he wasn't going to get it pointing the right way on the tarmac. Needs to engage reverse gear, and he did just that. So props to him on quite a safe rejoin there.
Yeah, it certainly was, and it's not often that you get to see that nowadays with some of the race that we see here in the sim. But what we are seeing right now is that lead battle has slowly whittled away at the front here, and you look at those times. I mean, that's almost half a second on the last lap gained by Bill Lawrence. He's a man on a mission here today.
Yeah, and you factor in these laps are only just over a minute. We're looking 1:17 seconds for most of the laps from these guys. Bill Lawrence, I mean, we said he's got the fastest lap of the race. He still holds that. He's got his best lap down to a 1:17.015. His race pace is looking very strong indeed. He has closed up some of that gap to Jos van der Ven. About the halfway point of the race now. He's got time to size up his move. They're still, on average, I think, pulling away from Stefan Rostgen behind, but he's still there or thereabouts. And I think that's part of the qualifying in this series, is that they only get 2 laps. Jos van der Ven has put in a golden lap in qualifying. Bill Lawrence, who maybe couldn't quite show the same pace, looking very, very good through the race, very consistent lap to lap, and that's going to put him in a good position to try and make a move. Rostgen just over a second behind Bill Lawrence, so if these two start fighting, he'll get in the picture as well. I think he'd like to do that, maintain some of his points advantage over Jos van der Ven. Speaking of those points, Russ Addy's just grabbed another position as well.
Yeah, he has. He's moved ahead of Kenneth Baldwin then, so that's up into 9th place for Russ Addy, so improvement for him. As you mentioned, Stefan, Bruce Poole's had a spin now, and that's up at the top of that left-hander. Bit of drama for Bruce, and we'll see whether he was helped or whether he did that all on his own here. Comes through the right-hander, and it's this left-hander. He's caught he's just coming a little bit too fast, I think. Spun it round, not hit the wall though, that's the crucial thing. So he won't have damaged the suspension. Still trying to get round, and Joel Martin's gone for a spin again at the same corner. That's twice now for Joel. A little bit more of an aggressive rejoin from Joel this time. But yeah, that's twice now Joel has made a mistake at that corner.
Bit of a party in the outfield there as well, and it's unfortunate for those guys, but fortunate to not tangle together and not damage their cars, so they'll continue and carry on. And with the big grid that we've got, 35 cars still running, I'm sure they'll be able to find someone to race with.
Well, this is it. The thing with it being such a big field here, you've always got somebody to race with. And that's what's really good about this series. So, these drivers, if you have an incident, you get a bit of damage, you're not quite as quick as you were, you're still going to be ending up in a battle with somebody, and that's what's really good on here. As we'll look at the positions gained, Russ Addy up 8 positions there, up into 9th place, so he's having a stormer at up the field. 10 places for Canol. Noyon, 11 places gained. And then some of the big losers, Morgan down 27 places. Bruce Grunheim down 14 positions.
We saw a couple of positions lost for Urs Muller as well, and we saw what caused that for him, pushing wide on the exit of turn 1. The lead of the race, Bill Lawrence, just 4 tenths behind Jos van der Ven, tucked right into that slipstream as they pass the sports cars green flag stand. Rostgen's dropped a teeny bit further back on one of the previous laps, must have had a little mistake, but he's back on it this time around, where he's closed in on the leaders once again. And oh no, around there is Wally Molesby. Car still looks fine, but we'll get the replay of towards the carousel what he's gone and done there. Difficult couple of corners, difficult twisting braking zone, and with a bump in the middle, I think he's gone to turn in, the rear's gotten loose, and when he's corrected it, it's snapped back the other way, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's just exactly as you mentioned there, as Donald Poole, another one. Oh, and
same
this
problem,
one,
but this time,
yeah, into
he
the
does
wall.
find the tyres.
Yeah, that's going to damage his car, and I think he's actually taken a tour back to the pit, so he's going to be taking that fast repair. Of course, there is a fast repair available to these drivers in this series to encourage people to carry on in the race here, so that's one of the key features of this series. Is Mark Robertson, we're used to seeing Mark a bit further up the field, but look at him, he's struggling down the field, and he's just had an incident.
He's running 21st now. He was already carrying some of that damage on the front left. We see he's come over the crest there. The rear's gotten loose, saved it, and then eventually he couldn't. So, Mark Robertson indeed there. He had some quick hands on the steering wheel there. Unfortunately, it just wasn't quite enough in that difficult corner where you come across the crest and the car gets light. Russ Addy, though, another position for him up into 7th. And I think that's been done with the slipstream on the way down to turn 4.
Yeah, it does appear so. We're going to draw our attention back to lead, because I want to mention a point here. We saw how Bill Lawrence was quicker lap on lap compared to Jos van der Ven. Is it now that he's in the slipstream that he's not got the same pace as what he had, and the draft from the car in front is affecting his performance here? Because he's kind of almost stagnated now behind the leader.
Yeah, maybe he's just biding his time there, but you're right. I mean, the gap was pretty significant. Van der Ven had a great jump off the start, and Bill Lawrence has closed it, and he's still there. Had a bit of lap traffic, and you saw Jos van der Ven trying to grab some of the slipstream off that. So he's obviously concerned about Bill Lawrence there. Maybe Lawrence just is waiting for a mistake from Jos van der Ven and hasn't seen one yet. We'll see. He's still got time. We've still got plenty of laps. So Bill Lawrence, well, maybe he's gotten to where he is now by being patient, so it's not going to hurt him to have just a little more.
One thing I have noticed here, and this is not going to really matter to many people other than ourselves here in the commentary booth, is that finally we've got onboard cameras on these cars where we can actually see the dashboard, so we can see what gear the drivers are in and how they're revving up the engines and that. So it's great that we finally got that on this car, and that's something to see. There's a back marker losing control right in front of the leaders there. Wally Moulsby, I believe it was.
Great reactions from Jos van der Ven, because he had a very, very quick decision to make, and he got it right.
It wasn't Moulsby, actually. Oh, he got taken out in a different incident. That was with the 27. I believe that is Joel Martin. It was. So I don't know who it was in front of the leaders. Bill Lawrence has closed right up meanwhile.
Van der Ven, I think, on the exit of turn 1 had to get out of the throttle just a little bit before he decided which way he was going to, avoiding that spinning car. Let Lawrence close up a little bit. He's lost a tiny bit coming across the hill there. Russ Addy, we mentioned he was on a charge. He's just gone and lost one of those positions back to Kenneth Dummer. So I think Addy's risen up the field about as high as he can. He's battled for the lead, though. I think that's allowed Roastgen to close up a little further as well. So Van der Ven had to check up a tiny bit. Bill Lawrence couldn't get a pass done. And now Stefan Roastgen, for the first time that I've seen, is within 1 second of Bill Lawrence, which means he's going to be getting that slipstream. 3-car battle for the lead functionally. So they're going to cross the line, and the number of laps to go will be 5. So that is basically 12.5 miles of racing, and you can see Van der Ven, Lawrence and Roastgen all in one shot. And Van der Ven and Roastgen, our two main championship rivals, as they've been for a couple of seasons in this series as well. So this is important at the halfway point. Who can maybe grab the win here? We've seen Roastgen make good moves and be patient, and you would not rule him out of this at this point. He's got that draft. He's now within a second of the lead of the race, and within about 6/10 of Bill Lawrence. He has a bit of a slide on the way into turn 4, catches it though, shows you how hard he's pushing, using all of the grip at the rear of the car, and then a little bit more. He smooths it down, and he gets a bit of a better run after there. The entry though might have been a bit sketchy.
Did he lock his brakes under downshift? It looked like that potentially happened, but he well held. I must say that was great reactions from Stefan. But I think he can sense another position here, if not getting a win. Because if these two in front start battling it out, he could well be the beneficiary of this. And right here, Stefan, he doesn't need to push, because of course we've got a second race, so even if he gets a podium, that's really good points, and then he can push on in the second race because he knows he's got a good finish. So that's the intrigue with this championship, with how it works, and it really does, it pays to be a thinking person, a thinking driver in this series, because you may throw away an opportunity at getting some good points in one race and then have to push on a bit more in the second race and risk getting no score in that one as well.
Yeah, no doubt Roastgen could think about banking a third place and then, giving it all in qualifying in the next race. Whereas Jos van der Ven would dearly love to lock in a win the first race. That's where he's running right now. And last time around though, Roastgen was within a tenth the fastest lap. Van der Ven gets checked up by a bit more traffic, Bill Lawrence can't capitalise, but now Stefan Rostjen is right there. Bill Lawrence taking him all the way to the grass, trying to defend that position. Gets in a little bit hot towards the carousel, but he has the inside. That was very racy from Bill Lawrence, getting his elbows out, trying to defend second place. It's let Van der Ven get clear just a little bit. Rostjen might now realise that he needs to get past Bill Lawrence and quickly if he's going to have a shot at winning this race with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that there's a second covering your front 3 there in the field, but all this battling between Lawrence and Rostjen is now allowing Jos van der Ven the opportunity to pull away, and that's exactly the opportunity he was waiting for at the front of the field. So Van der Ven, he's grasped the nettle here and he's just running with it. He's off. He's trying to make a breakaway here. Meanwhile, Rostjen right into that draft underneath the gearbox of the car in front. Can't quite make a move. In fact, he's just going to wait his time, but time is running out for these drivers.
Yeah, indeed. They've only got just a couple of laps to go. Rostjen going to come with a better apex there, but I don't think it let him get the throttle down much earlier than Bill Lawrence and come up to where they fought so hard a lap ago. Bill Lawrence making no mistakes this time. He's got just a tiny bit of breathing room, and he's going to try and hunt down Jos van der Ven once again. Van der Ven's going to come across, see 2 laps to go, and we have a fantastic 3-car battle where any of these drivers realistically could win it at this point. Bill Lawrence needs a calm head right now, needs to not look in his mirrors too much. Yeah, he could definitely still close the gap to Jos van der Ven with how the slipstream is going to work. He defends too hard from Rostjen, who gets in pretty hot to the keyhole, slides the rear tyres, is going to lose out just a little bit there.
I want to watch that again because I think he almost makes contact with Lawrence just Rostjen, so he's not sitting back and banking a podium. He wants a second place at least. Gets onto the brakes, has to get out of it. And that almost wiped out both drivers there.
We saw the lock up on the inside tyre as well. He was trying to get that thing stopped and just avoided a bit of contact. Here's Russ Addy back in 8th, fighting for 7th with Kenneth Duma. These two have been fighting back and forth a couple of laps, and Russ Addy's trying to set up a move somewhere, somehow, some way. Not finding one yet. These two pretty equally matched, and like I said, Russ Addy started pretty deep in the field, had some easy moves until he's risen to about the level of his talent, I think, and stagnated here in this great battle with Kenneth Duma.
Yeah, it's a great way to finish off the race, and you mentioned it earlier that the drivers that are consistent and consistently quick are the ones that are prospering here around this track, whereas some drivers who maybe had that one lap hot pace maybe dropping off a little bit in this race. But right now you lead a half a second ahead. Jos van der Ven, he doesn't need to push too hard, but he still needs to push on because that is not a comfortable gap at the front.
No, certainly not. This is the final lap, and Van der Ven was just a little more comfortable there than he might have been on some previous laps. Got about half a second to Bill Lawrence. They're past the 2 big slipstreaming and hard braking opportunities. Van der Ven, if he can just drive smoothly from here, there's no way Bill Lawrence can make a move. Lawrence wants to put the pressure on, but barring any huge errors, Van der Ven surely has this one. He's going to come to the right, over the crest, towards the carousel for the final time in race 1 of this round. From pole position, and got a great jump out of this corner on lap 1. Jos van der Ven's going to come and see the checkered flag and take a race win, put that in the bank. Bill Lawrence going to cross in 2nd, and Stefan Rostjen will also stand on the podium in race 1, 3rd position for him.
Great results from those drivers there. We've still got battling going on between David Riley and Jack Turner. This is over 12th place, and they're going to go side by side into the left-hander, and Turner just going to have to back out of it, try and get the cut back here, but he's on the outside for the right-hander. That's not where you want to be. As they come around the corner now, through the left-hander final corner, and across the line it goes. So those two pretty close together towards the end. Another close battle further down as well. 19th, Mark Robertson, who's not had the best of races with his damage there. Hillard and Rispaldo down there, 19th, 20th, 21st, all battling it out to the end as well.
This is what we said, a great turnout means there's battles for everyone, battles everywhere. We're looking at 20th place or so here. These guys have obviously been fighting pretty hard on this lap and some others, and they're all going to cross the line now. And they'll be pretty much the last cars on the lead lap here. And then we can look at our finishing results. Bruce Poole grabbed a couple spots, I think, on that final lap, so good for him. So, the race results. Your winner, Jos van der Ven. At 1 second, he's definitely some more gap than he had for quite a few laps coming towards the line. Bill Lawrence in second, Stefan Roostjen in third. Those three fought magnificently. Paul Stump holds on to fourth. Andrew Fiedler gets a respectable fifth. Then a little bit more of a gap backwards to sixth place, Randy Shoemake, Kenneth Doomer in seventh, Russ Addy in eighth, Kenneth Baldwin in ninth, and Leif Hellberg in 10th.
It's Bob Kern then 11th, just 10 seconds ahead of David Rowley, who only just finished ahead of Jack Turner in the end there. We saw that battle right at the end. Urs Muller with an instant at turn 1 finishes in 14th, with Jean-Michel Noyon in 15th. 16th for PJ Sally with Fred McIntosh down in 17th place. Jay Felton 18th with Mark Robertson 19th. Michael Halliard rounded out your top 20. Rest of the field will go through quickly. Gianni Rospeldo, Charles Gilly, Franz Brink was pretty close there at the end to Gilly, with Bruce Poole in 24th. Joel Martin, couple of spins for him. The last of your lead lap runners in 25th, with Lewis Canal, Donald Poole and Richard Coulomb all 1 lap down. 2 laps down, Bruce Crenheim, Gene Moore, and then others that did not finish. Carl Bogle, Jose Carlos Campandonico, with Wally Moulsby, Gerard Florison, John Morgan and Michael Rattigan rounding out the 36 drivers in the field here.
Yep, and we've seen a fantastic race 1. We've got a race 2 in our future. But before we get to that, we can have a word with our race winner. And Jos van der Ven takes the win here at Mid-Ohio. Jos, we know that this car, the Pro Mazda, can be a little bit twitchy sometimes. Mid-Ohio has a lot of little crests and up and down elevation. How difficult is the car around this track?
Well, you have to be careful because, like you said, the off-camber corners and so on, and the bumps in the track. But I did a few weeks ago a classic IndyCar race here, so I think it's in my advantage then.
Certainly a little less horsepower in these Pro Mazdas than in a classic Indy car, so that'll help you with not spinning the tyres up over some of the crests and some of those bumps. Your race start was very, very good. I think that green flag might have come earlier than some people were expecting. Did you know that's how it was going to go, or did you just set up a very fantastic start?
Well, we were close with gridding, close to the finish line, so there was only a short pace lap, and I concentrated on being very quick the first laps, so I can build up a gap. But then Bill Lawrence could catch me, and then it made the racing a little bit more difficult.
We saw one of the laps, you were having a little battle with Bill Lawrence, and a car 1 lap down spun in front of you on the exit of turn 1. What goes through your mind when you're having a battle trying to hold on to the lead and there's a car spinning sideways in front of you like that?
Well, that's just hoping that he will go out of my line, and I could see him crossing the track, so I didn't worry about it after that.
And you picked the right side to go to. You're in a little bit of a championship battle still with Stefan Roostjen, and we're at kind of the halfway point of the season. A win here does good things for your hopes of another title, surely.
Well, I will do my best, and of course, don't give them more chances in the second race.
Leads into my last question, where you've taken the win here in race 1, means you're going to take the maximum points away from this round, but then one more race is an opportunity for Stefan Rostjen to also get some points. Is the strategy the same for race 2 as it is for race 1?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep in front of Stefan, and every 5 points I can gain will make me closer to him.
Well, best of luck with that race 2, and maybe we'll see you again after that one, hopefully. Any parting words, anything you'd like to say on RaceSpotTV?
Well, I want to thank, of course, the organizers of this league, who will do a terrific job every week.
Awesome. Thank you, Jos. Paul, we'll move on, and maybe you'll speak with our second place man, Bill Lawrence.
Yeah, absolutely, I certainly will. And Bill, it seems that every time we have one of these broadcasts, you're up there on the podium. It's nice to have you back in the booth. Talk us through that race, because Jos got a lightning start there, but you were able to hunt him down there.
Yeah, hi guys, David, Paul, good to be back here again. I guess my luck comes around when you're broadcasting. Yeah, it was tough to hunt Jos down. He did get off the start good, but I was able to get ahead of Paul Stump, and just hang in there and pay attention to my corners. Gradually took a tenth off here and there and got back close.
And then of course he started. I mentioned in the commentary that maybe it looked like that once he got in that draft and got within half a second, the time just seemed to go away from you, and you weren't able to quite hit your lap times quite as well as you were. Was that you just maybe looking after your tyres a bit to push towards the end, or were you pushing as hard as you could all the way through the race?
No, I think what happened there, when I was waiting for the interview, I was speaking with Jos. When I got within the half a second mark, it's okay on the straight. I just didn't have enough juice to get up to him to get my nose in there. And then you enter the twisties, the S's, and you have to leave a little space, at least I do. I feel a little more comfortable. I don't want to run into somebody and mess both our races up. So in leaving those little gaps, you can't close. And Jos was better getting out of the last corner, coming back to the front section again. So we always had that little gap, and I just couldn't close it.
Well, the beauty of this series is we have more than one race. We've got 2 races. And next race coming up very shortly. Going for the big win for the next one, or are you happy with getting some good points now and comfortable for the second race?
Well, I'm just going to try and keep driving, as best I can. Hopefully I'll get up near the front there, or if not at the front, I'd like that, and see if I can't keep somebody else behind me.
Well, before we let you go, anyone you want to give a quick mention to whilst you're here?
Once again, I really like to thank you guys. You do a terrific job, and we really appreciate it here. The league organizers, my wife, the teammates that I have, all around, it's a great group. So thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much, Bill, and all the best for the second race of the evening.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, David.
Over to you, David, then, with our third place driver.
Yep, indeed. Championship points leader, but third place finisher here in race 1, Stefan Rostjen. You also did a fantastic job in trying to close down the drivers in front of you, Jos van der Ven and Bill Lawrence, but in the end, what made it too difficult for you to get a pass done?
Well, yes, I did what was possible, but the track was very slippery, and I really did not have a chance to get along.
Third place, still not a bad place to finish given the lead that you have in the championship. But for race 2, what are your chances of starting higher on the grid, finishing higher, or getting some more overtakes done to maybe stop Jos van der Ven clawing too much gap back?
Need full concentration qualifying, and I hope that I can do a little bit better than in.
You only get 2 laps for the qualifying for each race, and of course we've got a separate qualifying coming up for race 2. Short lap around mid-Ohio, how do you approach getting just 2 really quick laps done?
Principle, I do what I do every time. Try to drive, not to overdrive the car, and to be smooth, and hope that works better now in the second attempt.
Halfway point of the championship, you've won this league before, but surely you can never have too many trophies. How strong's your motivation to be champion in 60 plus racing adventures?
This has not changed at all. I try it as good as I can, and we'll see what happens.
That's a pretty good racing attitude. With any luck, we'll see you again after race 2, but if we don't and you're not on the podium, shout outs you'd like to give, anything you'd like to say to round this out?
Yeah, all the drivers in this league are increasing in the leagues. We are getting more and more people, and that is a good development, and I'm very happy about that. And then, of course, to the admins, big thanks.
Thanks, Stefan Rostron. Good words there, and well, thanks for dropping in, having a word with us. Go well in race 2. Here on RaceSpotTV, we're looking forward to that race 2, and we'll be coming with that very soon. But until then, a little break. We'll be back shortly.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was always fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos or danger until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all will be kept in the pits. Not to mention that with members in over 130 countries already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series and work your way up to one of 7 world championships, offering over $500,000 in prize money. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
This is Jim Beaver, voice of the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series. Introducing Pro 2 and Pro 4 trucks on iRacing. Game on!
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic, real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $400,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Welcome back to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and welcome back to 60 Plus Racing Adventures. A little bit of a break between Race 1 and Race 2, but we're ready for qualifying for Race 2 to set the grid. And 10-minute session, 2 laps allowed for our drivers. Track temperature and conditions pretty similar to last race, pretty warm track, not much of a breeze about, not much humidity, so some of the drivers were telling us there wasn't a whole heap of grip out there. It was a little bit slippery, and that'll continue into Race 2. But qualifying now, as I say, underway for Race 2. The driver's going to set out and on their out lap right now, and then start their 2 flying laps that they're allowed. You can see one of our drivers out there on their out lap. And tyre preparation, not so much of an issue in these cars. I think it's all about making sure both of your laps are clean, Paul. Yeah, would have lost a bit of time through that first corner, and then obviously keeping it relatively cautious and contained the remainder of the lap. He has one lap in the bag and he's going to try and get another one, but Bill Lawrence is at the top of the sheet right now and on his second flying lap as well. Just a 10th clear of Jos van der Ven, just another 10th ahead of Stefan Roostjen. So, I mean, these three guys who fought it out so hard for first, second and third in the race, in race 1, and now the same three guys at the top in qualifying for race 2, so we might well see a repeat. Might go slightly differently this time though. Bill Lawrence has really just got one more braking zone, functionally one more corner before he gets to the line. Stefan Roostjen has improved on his second lap. Bill Lawrence will need to do so as well if he wants to stand at the top, and he can't do it by quite enough. So Stefan Roostjen holding on to pole right now. Bill Lawrence improved on his second lap, but only marginally. Jos van der Ven, I think, has taken his 2 laps and still remains in third. A couple drivers still with some laps to complete. Joel Martin there looking at 20th. Bob Kern, what is he doing? He hasn't set a lap, so he's got time left in the session for sure. He's just starting his first timed lap now. Yep, precisely. Not a whole lot of laps allowed there indeed. So he's had the flexibility and when in the session to go out and set it. And he's obviously left the pits just a little bit later. He'll come across the timing line here and we'll see 17.8. That is not bad at all. That puts him up into 7th. And he's still got one more lap to go. So if he can improve here, this could be very good from Bob Kern. He's 8th now. So to get a spot, all Bob Kern needs is 1,000th of a second faster than his first lap. You imagine he'll push it pretty hard on lap 2. Looks tiny squirrely under brakes. You've seen some drivers lock up a tiny bit there, potentially. Kern has it under control for the moment though. Little bit of a slide on power down there as well. So he is going for it. It's just a matter of is this fast or is smooth fast? I think that's how Stefan Roostjen, our pole sitter, so at the moment, provisionally described it to us, is just keep it smooth, keep it under control. That's his secret for finding a bit of pace in this car. Bob Kern, let's see if he can improve on this one though. He's going to put the power down and come towards the checkered flag to complete his final timed lap. And it is not an improvement on lap 2. That's an interesting one. Maybe a hot track, the tyres were best when they were a little cooler.
Yeah, it looks like it. As Randy Shoemaker again up in 4th place here in qualifying, with time just ticking down here. So good lap time from Shoemaker to be only just under half a second behind your pole sitter. But yeah, these drivers, they're pretty evenly matched. As you mentioned in the first race coverage, they're on a fixed setup as well, so always the difference in how the drivers use their cars and use the performance that these cars bring them. And in these hot conditions, as you mentioned, 44 degrees track temperature in the centigrade. I don't know what that is in in Fahrenheit. Let's have a look at that. Oh, it's actually dropped a degree. It's 43 degrees now. 109 degrees Fahrenheit temperature at the moment. As you can see on screen, partly cloudy. So not much wind either. So the drivers are not having to compete with the wind here as they come out the final corner. Randy Shoemake and across the line a 17.681. But it's yeah, so it
not going to count.
Improve,
he's already used all of his laps. He's just still out here putting in laps, using it as a practice session. If they're able to do, you can go out, set your 2 timed laps, and then carry on adjusting to the conditions. That's what Randy Shoemake's doing. I think that's what Russ Addy might be doing as well. Only 2 cars left out on circuit, but everyone has completed their allowed timed laps. Russ Addy looks like he's going to start out of 9th, so slightly better than race 1. And if he can move through the field like he did in race 1, and he could be on for a top 5 in race 2, maybe it's consistency that's helped him to 3rd in the championship so far.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the championship. Let's just bring up those championship standings again. That was coming into this week, by the way. Of course, not adjusted point standings yet because we haven't had this second race. But yeah, he's 50 points behind Stefan Rosgen in the championship. He could do with a better result here in this one just to minimise the loss, because we know for sure that Rosgen has got a 3rd place in the bag. But starting from pole position for Stefan, that's going to be a big improvement there. So, you know, Russ, he needs a good race here today.
Going in his favour is that Coppage is not in attendance for this round that I can see. The man in 5th, though, John Morgan, is, and he's qualified rather well indeed as well. So that's qualifying session. Checkered flag waved on that. We'll look at the starting grid for race 2. Some familiarity from race 1, some surprises as well. Stefan Rosgen, your pole man, just a 10th and some ahead of Bill Lawrence. Jos van der Ven starting out of 3rd. It's going to be an exciting battle between those 3 again. Randy Shoemake does well for 4th place. Kenneth Baldwin is going to start out of 5th. And John Morgan in 6th. And here the functionally identical times of Andrew Fiddler and Bob Kern. Fiddler set it first, so Kern gonna start out of 8th.
9th for Rosati with Leif Helberg, rounding out row number 5. Row 6 is Urs Muller with Bruce Poole, 1 second behind your pole position time. We're just going to fire through these grid positions because the drivers are out there and they're getting ready for the start of this race. 30 cars in your grid for this one, so not quite as many, 6 less than the previous race. Still a nice big grid there, and Jim Moore rounding up your field 7.5 seconds off of your pole sitter.
And the drivers mentioned it after race 1, very quick run from the pace lap here. So the car pulls away as it does now, that iRacing Porsche safety car. It really just leads them towards the carousel, and then we get going, and the green flag comes pretty early through the carousel. I'm sure Stefan Rosgen will try and be ahead of that. Bill Lawrence too on the inside there, and then behind Jos van der Ven and Randy Shoemaker. Green flag waves, and Rosgen doesn't quite get the jump that Jos van der Ven got in race 1, so Bill Lawrence is going to fit into 2nd place. Jos van der Ven's going to hold on to 3rd. No huge surprises there, but side by side for 3rd place into turn 1 they go. Randy Shoemaker does a great job around the outside to grab 3rd place.
Yeah, Van der Ven's really struggling. He's having to go defensive here into turn number 2. There's Bob Kern in there, Kenneth Baldwin. There's all sorts of 2 wide, 3 wide action going on into turn 2, but they make it all through. Yes, they do actually make it all through. So great start from all these drivers here, all trying to sort themselves out. And Bill Lawrence, he's looking racy at the front here. He can sniff a victory potentially.
He certainly looked pretty good in race 1. He's looking good in race 2 again. Stefan Rosgen leading them through, but Randy Shoemaker, great job from him up into 3rd. Now putting a bit of pressure on Bill Lawrence for 2nd. He got a great start, had great confidence around the outside of turn 1, and that's what grabbed him 3rd place for the moment. So they're going to come towards completing lap 1, and it was a pretty clean start, thankfully, from most of our drivers, despite 2 wide, 3 wide action down towards turn 4 that we saw some of as well. Stefan Rostjen going to lead lap 1 though.
He is. We've got an instant further down. It's Lewis Cannell has taken a turn. Oh my goodness, it had started already. Let's see if we can just drop it back just a little bit more.
He's taken breakdancing lessons as well as a tow. So we do go back a little further on the replay. Got a couple cars bottled up right behind him here.
Oh, he had to get on the brakes. Oh, and then others got involved and bang, up and over on his roll hood. Good grief, that's quite an extreme ride. I hope that Lewis hasn't got VR, because that will make him very ill.
Yeah, indeed, a lot of damage on that car, unfortunately, and I think pressure got to him. He had a bit of a slide, and then he checked up, and there was a lot of cars behind him that weren't quite sure about which way to go. Might not have seen a whole lot of him either. Bit of a blind crest there as well, of which there is several around this undulating circuit. Riding on board, Jos van der Ven. Great run from him in race 1 to be our winner. Now looking at 4th place, looking at the gearbox of Randy Shoemaker, and as he does that, Rostjen and Lawrence are almost getting away a little bit in front. So Van der Ven got a lot of work to do if he's going to take the clean sweep of the round. Bruce Poole, dramas for him in the outfield. Get a replay.
Yeah, we will do as they go past the trees there. Luckily there's no trees in this section, so it's into the penultimate corner. As I say that, there's trees getting in the way. And around he goes then, so either had a little bit of speed or it was helped around in that corner, but he's back up and running though. Down in 23rd, battling away with Jared Florison, who had a nightmare of a race last time out in the first race. But look at this, side by side into the right-hander.
Van der Ven trying to get that 3rd place back. He gets to the inside of Jos van der Ven, of Shoemaker, holds it around the outside, becomes the inside again. 3 corners side by side for these guys. Neither of them is going to give it up. Shoemaker just has the nose in front, down the inside, a little bit of contact there. I think that must have been a wiggle for Shoemaker, put him into the side of Jos van der Ven. Van der Ven carries on, but Shoemaker's ended up hard into the wall, which is unfortunate because this was a great battle. Couple of corners between these guys, 2 wide across this crest. Watch the hands for Shoemaker. He just gets it a little bit out of shape, and I think that puts him into the side of Van der Ven. The 2 of them were doing great stuff side by side. Unfortunate that it had to end like that for Randy Shoemaker. That is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, and yeah, the back end just slid out on Randy there. Went out wide. Speaking of going out wide, was one of the back markers. I think it was Lewis Cannell getting out of the way of your leaders. As Muller is coming onto pit road as well to have a pit stop. So possibly a fast repair for them. Might
be damage for Van der Ven. He's now under pressure from Kenneth Baldwin for 3rd place. So Van der Ven again going to try and hold on to it. Gets a bit of the grass. Kenneth Baldwin is now in the position Van der Ven was in a lap ago. But Van der Ven, I think, is just going to hold on to that because there's been a problem there for Baldwin. He's looped it around. He's losing many spots. I think he was off his regular line and might not have gotten the power down so well. We get the replay on board. He's got Van der Ven to his left. They come over the crest here. He's offline a little bit, trying to put the power down in 2nd gear. Baldwin goes around. Car behind has nowhere to go. I think that might have been John Morgan. And Joel Martin's also having some dramas. So plenty of drivers in race 2 struggling for a bit of grip.
We're all aboard the struggle bus here as they go on through in this 2nd race here, but Stefan Rostjen, he's not having a struggle. He's out in the lead. The thing that's advantageous now is that Bill Lawrence has got a nice big 2-second gap between him and 3rd place Jos van der Ven. So all of a sudden he doesn't need to worry about the cars behind. He's looking forward, and that's one way that he's going, and that's for that race lead. But they don't want to fight too hard or else they'll slow each other down, and Van der Ven may catch up, although the damage, he's got significant side pod damage, as you can see on this shot right here.
Yeah, that's mainly where he got that contact, and I don't think that'll be hurting him too much through the corners, through this section of the track, but it really did look like it's hurt his straight line speed a little bit. He's clear of some of the cars behind, which might just help him. Russ Addy, we look at him. He started 9th, he's gained 3 spots now, up into 6th. Said a top 5 might be possible for him. He's taken advantage of some of those incidents we saw, especially for the likes of Kenneth Baldwin. That's helped Addy up into 6th. He's got Bob Kern right behind him though, who doesn't look like giving up. And ahead of them is this battle, John Morgan, Andrew Fiddler right on board with Fiddler right now as he pushes a bit wide through turn 1, had a bit of a twitch on the way in. He approached so quick and it's such a fast corner as well. So a bit of confidence, a bit of bravery needed. Fiddler will survive and he just needs to get a good exit out of here. He might be able to set up a move on John Morgan in front.
Yeah, he'll certainly trying to get that move. Try and get the slipstream here perhaps, Andrew. No, he's just staying behind, holding his line here. Not worried too much. He's not gaining that much on John Morgan ahead. Morgan looking for a good result in the second race, started in 6th place, so moved forward 2 positions in this one. And he's looking good for a solid result so far, although plenty of time left in this one. We're only on lap 6 at the moment, so we've seen how things could change. And speaking of changing, there goes Fiddler running wide on the grass. That's not a line that you want to be taking every lap, as David Riley has had a spin.
So David Riley, number 14 car, dropping down some positions indeed, and we'll have the replay. He's going side by side, and is he looping it on the exit there? Not the first driver we've seen to do that. Almost a mirror image of Kenneth Baldwin there, trying to go around the outside at the top of the hill. A real struggle to put the power down, and that was even in 3rd gear. Baldwin spun in 2nd.
Yeah, so these drivers just finding the outside line's not working through the left-hander there, and when you think about it, you know, these drivers rarely venture out onto that part of the circuit, so it's not exactly grippy. Looking up at the front, Bill Lawrence is putting the pressure on now and makes a dive for the lead.
Put the pressure on Stefan Rostgen, and now Bill Lawrence does indeed grab that race lead. I think he made a late dive for the inside. Stefan Rostgen, in his reaction, has had a bit of a slide, and Bill Lawrence has grabbed it. We'll see on board with Bill Lawrence heading down towards turn 4 in the slipstream. Big gain from Bill Lawrence. Rostgen's thinking about moving back across to the racing line, and Bill Lawrence breaks down the inside, so Rostgen gets a bit of a slide, and there was 1 car gap there. Bill Lawrence went for it, and he grabs the lead. I like that. What a fantastic move. Bill Lawrence saw an opportunity there. There was 1 car's width to the inside, and he managed to put his car there. Fantastic racing between these guys.
Yeah, but look who's got the fastest lap at the moment in this race, Stefan Rostgen. So don't think this one's going to be over quite yet. And with Rostgen in the slipstream, we know how fast Stefan is, and the fact that he's the championship leader going into this round means that he's certainly one to be considered for the race win here. That battling though, of course, has meant that Jos van der Ven has caught up a little bit now between those 3, so he's only about 1.5 seconds off of Stefan Rostgen right now, but still not close enough to make any moves. Speaking of making moves, John Morgan losing the position there to Andrew Fiddler.
Yep, over 4th and 5th. We saw these guys battling earlier. We saw Fiddler using all of the track and then some. He's got that position done. Behind them, though, Mark Robertson, Bob Kern, Leif Hellberg battling over 7th, 8th and 9th. Mark Robertson getting a little bit clear maybe for the moment. We've seen Leif Hellberg in previous rounds challenge for the podium position, so he's got pace when he finds it and when he puts his head down to it. So he's looking to move up the order just a tiny bit. Got Bob Kern in front of him with some front wing damage that will be less than optimal. So what can Leif Hellberg do to try and get a move done? Nothing for the moment. A couple of corners pass and they all hold station, at least for the minute. Through turn 1, what will that front wing damage for Bob Kern mean? A little bit of understeer potentially. Leif Hellberg does not stay in the slipstream on the run down to turn 4. at least for the first part of that little straight though. Need to get the power down confidently. No slides out of here. Now Hellberg is right set up to maybe get a move.
Yeah, it was Robertson who made a move on Bob on the last time by, and here comes Liff then down the inside. Kern struggling with the damage on the front nose, and that's affecting his top speed in terms of not just top speed but also cornering ability as well. That'll be reducing a bit of downforce on the front end, and I can see him potentially losing a couple more spots, although saying that the car behind him isn't actually for position.
Shoemaker lap down.
Yeah, so at the moment he's okay, he's safe at the moment, so he doesn't need to worry about the cars behind, but he needs to keep an eye on his speed. And Kenneth Duma as well, Bob's teammate, he's up close with Jack Turner, so he's keeping Turner busy while Kern is in 9th place.
Yeah, my timing screen just awash with red boxes and great little battles that everyone's having at about the halfway point of this race. So no doubt we've lost a couple of cars since race 1, but everyone who's left having a cracking battle, including Jos van der Ven, who set the fastest lap of the race last time. He's the fastest car out there, a couple tenths quicker than the guys in front. Van der Ven is pulling in Lawrence and Roostjen. Lawrence still leading this race after that fantastic move on Stefan Roostjen, so we are really set up for another 3-car battle between these guys. Jos van der Ven doesn't have a whole lot to lose in this scenario. He's already banked 35 points from the win in race 1. He has a big old drift across that corner. 3-4 attempts at counter steering. That's probably not the fastest way around, but he will survive.
Yeah, talk about Tokyo Drift right there. Through that corner, I think he's pushing a little bit too hard perhaps. One disadvantage of doing that in that corner, or just generally on these cars, is the amount of heat that you put through the tyres here. As well in Walsby's the latest one to have troubles up at the left-hander at China Beach, so it's causing real issues. And speaking of real issues, we'll come back, we'll keep it on replay because Stefan Roostjen has lost 2nd place, so we'll keep it on replay. We'll look at Wally Walsby very quickly here. And was he helped? Yes, he was. He was helped round. But looking forward then, here's what happened to Stefan Roostjen.
Into turn 1, out very, very wide, taking the Urs-Muller line almost. He will have gone across a lot of the grass there, lost some time doing that, and here comes Van der Ven. As you see, Van der Ven grabbed that position around the outside of turn 2. So now Bill Lawrence 3 seconds clear in the lead of the race, and our championship contenders and rivals will battle it out over 2nd and 3rd. Jos van der Ven currently has. He'd love to finish ahead of Roostjen again, prevent Roostjen from taking as many points out of race 2, and that'll let Roostjen close in on the championship. Of course, the points that you take out of each round is whatever your best result is of races 1 and 2. Best result for Van der Ven, first, he's guaranteed to take 35 points. It's all about what Roostjen can do in race 2. Best result so far of 3rd. If he finishes in 3rd again, and that means Van der Ven will take more points out of this round. It will close up that championship fight. It's a great run from Roostjen out of turn 2. He'll be right in the slipstream of Van der Ven, who we think might be missing a tiny bit of straight line speed. Van der Ven going to defend the inside, force Roostjen around the outside. Roostjen can break deep around turn 4, but Van der Ven just holds on for now. Great battling, very wheel-to-wheel, bit of a twitch from Van der Ven on the exit of turn 5, like we've seen many a driver do. Roostjen tucked up right underneath again.
If I'm Jos van der Ven now and I've got a win in the bag, and I've got my main championship rival right behind me, whose best result is a 3rd place from this week so far, I'd be doing absolutely everything to keep Stefan behind me and to keep him down in 3rd place, because then you give yourself the best opportunity of getting as big a points advantage as possible. Not only that, but if you fight away and defend like crazy, it's going to allow the leader to pull away and give Stefan Rosgen, if he does make it past into second place, less opportunity to be able to potentially get a race win and equal your points.
35 points for a race win, 26 if you finish in thirds. That's a 9-point swing that Jos van der Ven is looking at. If he can just keep Stefan Rosgen behind him for another 8 laps. Pretty easy ask? No, probably not. We've seen how hard Rosgen tried to fight to grab the position through this corner a lap ago. This time he stays in line, but he'll try and set up some wider entries, try and get a better run out of the corners, and most importantly, try not to slide those rear tyres and continue heating them up like we've seen Van der Ven do in a couple of spots.
Yeah, certainly Van der Ven has been on edge. I think he is losing, he's lost just that little bit of edge with the damage to his side pod. As Andrew Fiedler is dropping down the order. So something's happened to the 101 car. We'll have a look briefly at this before we go back to the battle for second place. And this is going to be on the exit, this right-hander. Oh, he's just gone in a little bit too hot through the right-hander there. That sends him a half spin, and away he goes as Van der Ven runs wide now at turn 1.
Rosgen has his nose in front. Rosgen into second. Van der Ven's gone wide through turn 1, lost out on second place. So Stefan Rosgen, his pressure and his patience rewarded as he now runs wide at the exit of the keyhole. This might give Van der Ven the run back in his slipstream. Hard battling between these guys. They're now 3.5 seconds off the lead of Bill Lawrence, but this is critical points for Stefan Rosgen. He just needs to make sure that he doesn't let Jos van der Ven take too much of an advantage away from this round. Van der Ven, I think, is going to put the pressure back on Rosgen again, though. But the pressure from each of these guys, we've seen some little cracks, and this time it was Van der Ven's turn. Rosgen is back into second.
Yeah, and a little bit of wing damage, so Van der Ven actually came off worse of the two escapades out into the wilds of mid-Ohio. But Rosgen, though, with that, as I say, a little bit of front wing damage, and we'll be able to see it here. So on board, you can see both on the left and the right. It's not as it's meant to be. That's not how it came out of the factory there. And he'll be suffering a bit more with the side pod damage as well. And I think that's going to be it for Van der Ven trying to get that second place. Although Rosgen running out wide on the exit of turn 2, and he's pushing still as David Riley back to the pits as something has happened to David here.
Well, we'll see on the replay. This corner has been the foil of many a driver. He's had a bit of a miscommunication there. Didn't see that other car that may have been a lap down was staying to the inside. He's gone to try and, over-under, get the move down there. The two have come together. Bit of a miscommunication with traffic. On board with Russ Addy. He's in 5th and he's trying to hunt down 4th place John Morgan. So up 4 spots from where he started is Russ Addy, 3rd in the championship standings coming into this round. And where he is right now, well, he's in that battle with the 4th place man in the championship, John Morgan. So if Addy can get this move done, I think he'd shore up his 3rd place. Sorry, Morgan's 5th in the standings. But still, these guys in a championship battle over some of those spots. And Addy, well, if he gets ahead, he'd shore up that position.
Sure would. As you can see, positions gained. Dummer up 10 spots down there in 10th place. Bob Kern's name didn't show up there. I do apologise, Bob. Bruce Granheim up 13 spots. Sally up 10 spots. Baldwin down 18 spots in this one. And Shoemaker, as we saw with that incident with Van der Ven, down 23 spots and out of this. Oh no, he's still in the race, but he's way down. 3 laps down in your race leaders. So Addy is still keeping the pressure on John Morgan here.
Indeed, had a bit of a look into turn 4, but I think it was more just to give John Morgan something to think about. Through this section here where it's so difficult to pass, he stays close. Bit of a slide on the exit, potentially through there. Addy is still just couple of tenths behind John Morgan. Gets very close into the carousel, takes a wider entry. Will that let him get the throttle open earlier? Not quite. Stays about status quo, but a fantastic battle. 4th and 5th. These two, on my screen, did identical lap times last time.
So this battle is pretty close for 4th. Battle for 2nd place is closed back up as well. So I'm keeping an eye on both battles on my timing screen here, because this one could get very interesting as we head on into the final few laps, as Van der Ven looking to the inside. Rosjen gives him space, gives him the outside line, and that's not going to work out. You can see the twitch then from Van der Ven on the outside. Again, that wide line not working out for drivers here through that left-hander.
It just looks like you have to wait too long to get the throttle open around the outside there, and I've seen it time and time again. Van der Ven held on to it, but he just didn't get the run off that corner that Stefan Rosjen got, and that's what makes Bill Lawrence's move through that corner earlier so bold, so brave, to get to the inside of turn 5 there, not have to go around the outside. So Fiddler grabbing a couple of spots as well. I've seen he's just taken one away from Rob Kern. Russ Addy is just here, and Leif Hellberg's having a tough time of it as well. He's just gone and lost a spot or two. Get a replay of how he's done that. Again, a lapped car that he couldn't see until too late. He put in too much steering input over the crest, and that sent Hellberg around, unfortunately.
Yeah, as you mentioned, just getting caught out by that lap traffic. Making moves back though, so straight away on the offensive there on Jack Turner. So not backwards and going forwards, that's for sure, is Leif, and through the gut. And Hellberg now is having to go defensive here. There's not much room there to your right there, Jack. It's all grass and cones out there, so you'll have to go to the left, down the straight, and surely that should be Leif now at least back up into 10th place for the time being.
Indeed, so Hellberg, another driver, recovering somewhat. Hold on to 10th for the moment. He's got Kenneth Dummer just in front of him. Might be able to get there. It's 2 laps to go. Charles Gilly and Bruce Poole side by side. Gilly to the inside, up 9 spots now from where he started. Bruce Poole goes back into 16th. Fantastic battle again, and a move helped by the slipstream, but it was good on the brakes from Gilly. Grab another position. 2nd place though, Rosjen gonna be under pressure from Van der Ven out of the keyhole. He moves all the way to what's going to be the inside for turn 4. Van der Ven is closing in the slipstream. There is 2 laps to go for these title rivals here. Rosjen holds the inside. If Van der Ven can go around the outside here, that gives him the inside for the next corner, but Van der Ven is going to have a spin. Too much speed, not enough grip, and that is going to cost Van der Ven dearly. He needs to get that thing pointing the right way and get it going pronto, because he's going to start losing some spots. I think John Morgan's through, Russ Addy is through, Van der Ven is going to go back into 5th, Rosjen is up into 2nd, and suddenly Russ Addy is fighting for a podium position with John Morgan.
Yeah, this is great to see as we're heading in towards the final lap of the race here, and Russ, he's putting the pressure on, but John Morgan is up to the challenge here, and all he needs to do is do one more lap of this track, and John could see himself on the podium. But what a drive from Russ there. Started 9th, now up into 4th place.
Indeed, so Lawrence on the final lap leading, Stefan Rosjen comfortably in 2nd. The battle here over 3rd and 4th. Russ Addy has realistically one last opportunity to try and take this position, and it's going to have to be a dive of some kind into turn 4. He's going to drop right into that powerful slipstream down the back straight here. It's closing, but he's just maybe not quite as close as he would like. Morgan's going to defend the inside somewhat. Addy, how deep will he dare dive around the outside? Not quite enough. He just gets room to the inside of turn 5. He'll push out a little bit wide, but so too will John Morgan. They'll remain side by side. Addy around the outside gets great drive, and he's taken it. Third place right now for Russ Addy, side by side for a couple corners. But Bill Lawrence is your race leader from second on the grid. He has led a couple laps now, and for race 2, he's going to see the checkered flag first, and Bill Lawrence is going to be your winner. Stefan Rostian will do the damage control in grabbing second place. Russ Addy battles continually with John Morgan, but Addy holds on to it to be your third place finisher.
Great battle in there. Fiddler trying to make a recovery into sixth place, doesn't do it. Leif Hellberg, on the last lap at the penultimate corner. What on earth has happened here, Leif? Let's have a look. It doesn't look good, and we'll see what it is. Don't say it's just carrying too much speed. It is! Carry too much speed into the wall there. And that's going to be a loss of at least one position, possibly two. No, just the one position lost then in the end for Leif.
Got it pointing the right way again quickly, but that's a costly mistake to make on the final lap. Unfortunately for Leif Hellberg, just cracking under a bit of pressure there. Only a couple cars left to come across the checkered flag. One of them is PJ Sally here in the 052. Checkered flag waves now for him. The last car on the lead lap. Some cars a bit further down the order going to come across the line as well. 27th car is Joel Martin. He's going to cross the line in 21st. There, he's also on the lead lap. Okay, so he'll be the final car on the lead lap, and this is our race results. Your winner is Bill Lawrence. In the end, 3.5 seconds clear of Stefan Rostian, who did not crack under the pressure of Jos van der Ven. Russ Addy, an inspired drive there onto the podium. Third place for him, up 6 positions. John Morgan finishes 4th, not a bad drive out of him, and Jos van der Ven couldn't hold on. Bit of a spin for him, he still gets 5th place. Mark Robertson in 6th, close with Andrew Fiddler in 7th, Bob Kern 8th, Kenneth Dummer in 9th, Jack Turner is 10th.
Then the rest of your field then. Leif Hellberg, we saw with that incident on the last lap in 11th with Jay Felton, finishing a good 12th place for Jay. 13th for Richard Coulomb, a bit of a recovery drive after the disaster of the first race. Bruce Granheim, another one who had a nightmare in the first race, in 14th. Bruce Poole, 15th, just 1.1 seconds ahead of Charles Gilly in 16th there. The Rusty Nut driver Fred McIntosh in 17th with Gianni Raspaldo, 18th. 19th for Urs Muller with PJ Sally rounding up the top 20. 21st was Joel Martin, the last of your lead lap runners with Kenneth Baldwin 1 lap down in 22nd. Wally Bowlesby and Lewis Cannell 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 2 laps down with Randy Shoemake rounding out the last of the runners, and then those that did not finish: David Riley, Gene Moore, Franz Brink, Jared Florison and Michael Hilliard. But again, really good racing, and certainly a really intense battle, but one man who didn't have an intense battle then in the end was our race winner.
Yes, indeed, and we can speak to that man, Bill Lawrence, and a great win in race 2. Lots of pressure from behind from the likes of Rostian and van der Ven, but you got a good enough jump at the start of the race, and then managed to capitalize on some mistakes.
Yeah, I was running 2 behind Stefan there, and I think he just made a slight little error, gave me a little bit to get my nose in, and got around him. And then Jos got into the fray, and those two started to fight, which allowed me room to breathe.
When you're leading the race and you see second and third start to battle each other, how big is the smile on your face?
Ear to ear.
Well, it was a fantastic move that put you into the lead of the race. There was maybe 1 car width down the inside of turn 5 there, and you saw the opportunity and went for it. Can you premeditate a move like that, or is it just instinct when you see a gap?
Well, a little of both, I think. I'm not sure if you guys were watching, but on that corner, we both had a little different approach. And so I was watching that approach quite a bit, and then that gave me a little confidence once there was a little error there that I could get in.
Track temperatures were hot again. A lot of drivers going for some unforced spins. And how do you find that track temperature that we had for this race? And did you have any places where you have to roll out of the throttle a little bit to not spin up those rear tires?
Oh yeah, definitely. But it may have been track temperature. We practice in the hot temp, so there's some off camber stuff coming over the hills. It's undulating here, so you have to really roll on the brake or on the throttle. And you can, if you're good at trail braking, it's a little difficult, but you can work that to help point the car and get it set for the corner as well.
Well, a good win for you means you'll take a bunch of points out of this round, and certainly just the honour of being Race 2's winner. Anyone you would like to thank?
Well, once again, guys, I'll just leave it with you guys this time. We really appreciate your coverage. You're very good at it, and I know the whole league is grateful for what you do. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for having a word with us and making yourself available, Bill Lawrence. Paul, we've got our second place man, Stefan Rostjen, and I think this race for him was just a little bit of damage control.
Yeah, well, let's find out about that, because it is an improvement, Stefan, then. You finished race 1 in 3rd place, 2nd place for this race. But you had a really good, hard battle in the start, though, with Bill Lawrence. Just talk us through that to start with.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with this result. This was a good result for me. I had a pretty good qualifying, and I could make the race from the start. But Bill was making absolutely no mistakes, and he would really drive into my transmission, and so I got a little bit nervous and made a mistake, and he tricked me out. He has done that wonderfully. Yes. I have to congratulate him.
Yeah, that was a fantastic move. But then, of course, we saw yourself and Jos battling away, and it must have been nice to be able to, well, I'll say it must have been nice to be able to force a mistake, but you had a mistake as well at turn 1 in that battle with Jos. It seemed to be that drivers seem to be struggling a little bit with turn 1 here today.
It's not only the turn 1, I think it's the nerves. Huh? Somebody is so close behind, then you really get nervous. At least I do.
But in the end of the day, you do finish in 2nd place, a really good points haul for yourself here, Stefan. Going into the rest of the season, of course, we have the second half of the season. Are you just trying to keep on getting these really good results to keep yourself up there at the top of the standings?
Yeah, the next one is the Nürburgring combined, and I don't know if I can achieve anything there. I have not practiced much on that track. So that's my home track, but I don't like it because it's so difficult. So I have to practice there. Let's see what happens, but I do not think that I can make much there.
Well, it's fun in a touring car. I know that from racing touring cars around there, but in a Formula car, I don't know if I'd have fun there. But before we let you go anyway, is there anyone you want to give a quick mention to whilst you're here?
Again, the admins and the guys, and then also to RaceSpot. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Stefan, and congratulations on the 2 really good results here today. Okay, David?
Yeah, well, I love when we get a chance to speak to some of the drivers in 60-plus racing adventures. They keep it short and sweet often, and it goes to show the respect I think a lot of the drivers have for each other within this league. They try to race each other fair, try to provide some good competition, and it is a fantastic league, and they're always recruiting. You can find them on the iRacing forum for 60-plus racing adventures. The drivers 60 years of age or older, and it shows that there's still plenty of fight left in a lot of these guys, Paul.
Absolutely, and you touched on the word right there, which was respect. These guys here, they're doing this. It's a hobby, and they're doing this because they enjoy it. They want to have hard but fair racing. So you won't see the maybe the exuberant moves that you would see maybe in one of a World Championship series that you might see there. But these drivers, they've got a lot of experience there, and they know what they can do, and they can think out these situations. So the reactions might not quite be what they used to be for some of these drivers, but still they put on a fantastic show. And it goes to show that every time we interview somebody here, they're always thankful for the other competitors, for the admins as well. So it's just a great community that they've got here in 60 Plus Racing Adventures.
Indeed it is, and at the halfway point in this championship, we've seen that Jos van der Ven is going to try and close it up just a little bit. It's not going to be smooth sailing for Stefan Roostjen in this championship. They've got a couple more rounds to do. RaceSpot coverage will be back for the finale, which will hopefully be a fantastic championship fight, November 27th from Phillip Island, which is a great course in these cars. I hope all the teams and drivers enjoy their racing until then, and you will see coverage again of 60 Plus Racing Adventures on RaceSpot at November 27th. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in here on RaceSpot. I've been David Haynes, producer and commentator. Alongside me has been Paul Smith. From both of us, thank you and good night.